Here's my thoughts on uh, the Tigers' loss last night to Florida Atlantic. The my reflection on our entire season. Uh, some of the problems that you'll see associated, some of the handicaps that Penny Hardaway has, and the future of college basketball. That's a whole lot in one video. Last night was a tough loss. I was in bated breath all day long waiting for this game to come on because I just saw so many opportunities and I was excited about the Tigers. Uh, excuse that, on the second floor of a home and the wind's blowing pretty strong today. You hear it up here. I was just so excited. I thought this was a chance, and then, a little worried about advancing to play Purdue, but Fairleigh Dickinson took care of that even before then, and I don't know whether that became a handicap or whether that was necessarily a good thing. The Tigers finished as conference champs. It was great beating Houston, finally getting revenge, and being the conference champion of a major conference. Well, mid-major conference. But sometimes I think cutting the nets down in the conference tournament removes the chip that you really need to go into the tournament with. So I think we were a tad bit overconfident and a little complacent. And that's what being named most valuable player, finally getting revenge and cutting down the nets. You lose a little of the underdog that would put the chip appropriately on your shoulder. But look, we played them. It was one of the toughest losses. Uh, it hurts like Gonzaga did. It doesn't hurt like Kansas did in 2008. But look, I don't know what people want to throw excursions at Penny, and they want to blame Penny. I saw one guy post, and I understand it, that Penny needs to get after the referees. Let me tell you what Penny's great disadvantage is sometimes. Anything that he does in a negative sense is magnified. Coach Cal cussed out referees. He'll cuss out a fan. He'll cuss out a sportscaster. Bobby Knight kicked players, threw chairs, and did everything. Penny threw a water jug, and that made the front pages of the paper here. Now hearts are hurting. He took an emotional loss, and you gotta say that you gotta print that he threw his water jug. The skirmish that you saw between players, that happens even at the next level. When you're passionate about winning, that sometimes it will run you into a collision course with a player, or something that you may think is not as passionate. It was a very tough loss. Of course, the referees made some horrendous calls, but I think that Florida Atlantic, um, as a team, in the Tigers' eyes, the Tigers were eyeing Purdue, or they were eyeing the next game. They maybe didn't take them as seriously. And then there's the other effect that Memphis does. Memphis has such a name, and with Penny being coach, every player chooses to come from anonymity to have their very best game of their lives. They're up for Memphis. Even Fairleigh Dickinson's coach, in his speech after the game, he couldn't even think of Florida Atlantic. So look, Tigers take a loss. We've been around a long time, and we've taken some painful losses. I was watching Memphis beating Virginia Tech at wherever they play. Hold on, it'll come to me, in Blacksburg many years ago, and we were up 25 and we lost. So we've had some painful losses. let me tell you, and people are blaming Penny because whatever thing he had. Look, Memphis, I don't know how we got totally the bad boy image. It may be how people revere the city itself. But Penny doesn't deserve it. The guy, you guys that want Penny to change his whole personality, if the personality that he has worked for him for 50 years, he's probably not going to change it. Uh, he's used to have some undeserved hate. He's a tall, good-looking brother, uh, uh, wealthy, and he has fame. That's going to put him at the top of the list when people decide on who to hate. College basketball is changing right now because of the NIL. Kids can finally get paid, and they're getting changed because of the transfer portal. They know every kid that played against Penny this year, when you go through the handshakes after the game and everybody shakes their hand, they know that player is enthralled that he's shaking the hands of one of basketball's greatest, because Penny was an injury or two from being on the basketball Mount Rushmore. Can't put him there, but what could have been? You just think of that. But college basketball has to decide, we're getting into a new norm. If you listen to the announcers, they love announcing who was Bobby Knight's ball boy. They love the coach that was the child guy for Coach K. They haven't figured out a place for these NBA players who have fame, who have wealth, who have experience in the league, which ultimately most players want to go to the next level because of the rewards that come with it. When I was at Memphis State in the 80s, if you were a guy that didn't make it to the next level in whatever your professional sport would be, you knew that you had goodwill at home. They'd get you a job at the Shelby County Jail, Coca-Cola, who was one of the big sponsors. You might get a job as a salesman somewhere and use your fame in the area, or some other thing. I have a friend, Sam, I have a guy that I used to be a church member with, Sam Henderson. And Sam Henderson says he played football for Tennessee, and he scored in the Sugar Bowl. And he says even now when he's going out to eat and he waits to pay the bill, some fan or the restaurant itself pays the bill. So that's great. But these guys are looking for wealth to where they're not just looking for somebody to pay my $60, $80, or $100 restaurant bill. So that's going to be the appeal of the NBA player coach going forward. Hardaway, for whatever you say, whatever he didn't, he made it 14 years in the league. When you make it 14 years in the league, can you imagine the connections you receive? Can you imagine who's in his Rolodex? Can you imagine who's a contact? Can you imagine what he's learned? All those things come with it. So college basketball is trying to figure out, because Penny Hardaway and Juwan Howard are seeing some success where Clyde Drexler and maybe Johnny Dawkins, who preceded them, hadn't seen quite as much. What do you do with the superstar NBA player that becomes a coach? Well, one of the things that you have to deal with is college basketball can't really threaten them. They can't intimidate them. And what's to stop new players from doing it? What about when Steph Curry finally retires? Would you want to recruit against Steph Curry? Or what about James Harden? Would you want to recruit against the beard? LeBron, if LeBron ever thought of coaching in college basketball, you got to think the influence these players have on the kids' parents, which will influence the judgment on the kids. So college basketball is at a crossroads, not only because of the NIL and the transfer portal. You got to figure a place that you're destroying this narrative of he wants wiped the floor for Coach K, or he once swept the floor for Bobby Knight. Coach Calipari gave him a job as towel boy. So we're leaving that narrative. So we're at a crossroads for college basketball. As far as Memphis is concerned, look, Tigers, we got to assume that when we play any team, we're also playing the refs. Whatever chip Memphis has done or established throughout basketball, the NCAA, we got to deal with it. I thought that we were a tad bit lackluster, and that could have come because Florida Atlantic didn't have the name. It could have came that we were off a very emotional conference championship run. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes it's better to lose in the conference championship and have the appropriate chip on your shoulder. I didn't see the chip last night. I saw, you can't put it all on Penny because some things are done with the players. In retrospect of the season, people didn't think we thought we were an NIT team. This wasn't Penny's most talented team, but Davis and Williams were stars all year long. I'm rooting for both of those guys. I don't necessarily see their name in any of the mock drafts that are out, but they got the right to go to camps and try to show up. And look, in retrospect, if they have to go overseas and you go and make $700,000-800,000 playing overseas, that's probably more than what you'll get if you got an MBA from even the best school. So I'm rooting for these guys. I'm rooting for them. Not only I'm rooting for the guys that left Memphis. Let's see, DJ Jeffries. Blessings to his career. Blessings to Boogie Ellis. Imani Bates. Blessing to Tyler Harris. I'm leaving out somebody. And Landers Nolly. I hope all those guys find a way to cash in somewhere to where they'll pay you more than the norm, and all of the things that you went through and all the ways that you entertain the fans in this area will be rewarded. Alo, gonna miss you. Malcolm, I pray that you get away from the injury bug and see a great form of living and receive a great form of your talents, which I think have never been fully put on showcase. Davis and Williams, y'all are killers, and just because no one's putting you on their radar, it's not the first fight that either one of you all have had. Alo, you improved your shooting. Injuries can come at some of the worst times, but I think you will be remembered throughout Memphis history. I don't know whether that means after you play a stint somewhere else professionally, or who wouldn't like this guy as one of the best coaches around. So life sends a lot of things. As for Penny, you all stop getting down on him so much, because believe it or not, there's going to be some schools after Penny. He has the disadvantage of walking in a room, and whatever coaches are there for a high caliber prospect, that he's going to suck the air out of the room a tad bit. What college coach dwarfs him in wealth? What college coach dwarfs him in prominence? What college coach has the kid already wearing his shoes? So those are some dilemmas that he has to take. Penny, I don't think is necessarily an introvert, but if he was a brand builder at other people's expense, everybody would know him. But I think he's going to stay a tad bit reclusive. Those that are good with him will get in and get out, and those that won't. It is foolhardy to make, when he does show emotion, a headline. He threw a water bottle. What did you see Bobby Knight doing? He threw chairs. He kicked players. He did everything that would make a spectacle. But Penny threw his water jug. Come on. Let's get better than that, Memphis. Let's esteem the coach that'll take this to another place. There, we have better talent coming. Uh, there's going to be a swath of players that are wanting to come through the transfer portal that are game ready, ready to play for Penny. Let's celebrate our year. I pray for all the Tiger seniors. Pray that you reach all of your dreams. I pray that life blesses you like it never has. Thanks for the season. Thanks for giving us your best. And I have to say, go Tigers, go. Be blessed.